Let's all just take a deep breath in. So we inhale love and exhale fear. I'm going to invite God into this space and humbly ask that I please set aside everything that I think I know about myself, the unmanageability in my life, my spiritual path, podcasting, and you for the deep, true gift of an open mind and a new experience with myself, my unmanageabilities, my spiritual path, podcasting, and especially you, God. So, episode 4. Oh my gosh. Episode 4 of The Vision Inside. And yet again, yeah, sitting in the same place, in the same spot, talking into the same mic. And here you are. Here you are joining me side by side, right? Like, I don't see you on the other side of the wall. I don't see you in a different town. I don't see you on the other side of the world. I see you sitting right next to me. I see heads in laps, and I see tears, and I see joy, and I see happy children and happy families, and I see all kinds of people. And how do I choose, right? Like, how do I choose who I surround myself with? How do I choose where I go to work and what I choose to do with my everyday life? And I don't know, I was thinking about taking a look at that. Yeah, and that word, a word that is I don't know, kind of maybe no one really likes to talk about. Yeah, like that word, inventory. And if you currently work for someone, as I do, and there are things, right? There are certain things to count. There are numbers to roll up. Uh, whether you work at a coffee shop or a restaurant, or even any business in recreation or outdoor activities, right? There's always inventory to be taken. How much we started with, how much we end up at the end of the day, what we used, what we need for tomorrow, and all these things, right, that we do to take that daily ledger. So I don't know about you guys. Yeah. I I'm hardwired, right? Like there's something inside of me that just doesn't like it when you tell me what to do. I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but don't tell me what to do, especially with respect to my place of employment, being a mother. Like, I don't like people telling me what to do, let alone how to do it. So, with that being said, why why does it seem logical to me? I don't know, might not seem logical to you after listening to this. Why should I believe what you believe? Why should I do the things that you do? Right? Like, well, what's the sell point there? And what I'm trying to get that at with this whole inventory thing, and don't tell me what to do. I'll do what I want to do when I want to do it with who I want to do it with. Yeah, what I'm trying to get at is there needs to be some kind of purpose and drive in my life, right? Like, I cannot survive in this world just on sheer intellect. I was given more things than intellect, that makes me human, right? I was given a brain to think and process things, and I was given this thing called will, right? The part of my humanness that gives me the ability to make decisions. And so, why is it that I should believe what you believe? Why can't I believe, and also you, right? Why can't you believe what you want to believe? Well, the question isn't why, it's why don't you, right? Why don't I already believe what I want to? Because sometimes, ring the ticker bell, sometimes what you believe and how you behave in your life might go against every principle and how I behave in my life and the things that I believe in too. And so we sit here and take a little inventory, right? I take a little inventory of my life, and I I see that I like different parts of what different people believe. And I said that in one of the earlier episodes, that I take a little bit of the teachings of Jesus, and I take a little bit of the teachings of Buddha, and I really enjoy what the Dalai Lama says. I love certain people who podcast as well, like Simon Sinek and Mel Robbins, and a little bit of Jay Shetty, and a lot of Brene Brown, and a lot of church sermons. A lot of church sermons. One of my biggest things that I really, really try and help other people with is the primary source of suffering is attachment. And the less things that I am attached to, the less expectations I have, not just of you, but of myself. And that I'm not attached to any certain belief, because not one belief is the only belief. I also have read a bunch of spiritual books, and there's an author, and he wrote this book called The Power of Now. And some of you might have heard of that book, and he's a phenomenal author. And being in the presence of the present moment is the most powerful place to be. It is the only place that I can use my ability to think and my ability to make decisions. It is the only place in that increment of time where being human is perfectly imperfect. So I sit here, and I take an inventory of something, or that thing, of God, of a higher power, of spiritual nature, and I find these things that I want, right? Everything outside of being omniscient and omnipotent is attainable. In my eyes, it is. It's attainable. And the more I focus and I apply those attributes of being compassionate, those attributes of being loving, and whatever loving means to you, right? It doesn't matter what it means to me. It matters what it means to me when it applies to me. But it matters to you when it applies to you, right? Because not one belief is the only belief. And I take a look at these attributes of what is forgiveness. And do I even really want to live that way? Right? Like I cannot help but acknowledge that there are people in this world who just don't want to, or they just don't know how to. And I'll tell you what, you guys, like I also didn't know how to forgive or how to be compassionate, let alone have the capacity, right? Like the knowing and the applying of how to do those things. Uh I had to be taught those things, right? Those are definitely learned behaviors and skills in my life, and that didn't come from a self-help book. I mean, I wasn't present the day that God gave out the manual, yeah, for life, at least not for me. And I wasn't there the day that God gave out the manual for parenting either. I surely wasn't there the day that God gave out the manual for being a wife. I don't know how to do these things, right? I can watch you, the world, participate in your life and in your marriage and in your job and in your school and parenting and all these things, but I'm I'm gonna learn and do as life goes on, right? Like no matter how my mom raised me, and if you guys are a lot like me, I wanted to raise my kids completely different from how my mom raised me. And I really think that a lot of parents in this world, especially mine, my mom told me, just raise your kids better than I raised you. And if there's anything in this world that my mom wanted from me, was that exactly. And so part of parenting, and now I understand, I sometimes I'm all over the place, and that's okay too. Part of my parenting theory, it's a theory, still, a lot of it is not proven, and even when it is proven, it changes. Um, is just that foundation of nurture, you know. And again, like, what is that, right? What is nurture? Oh my gosh, I never grew up in a home with nurturing parents. um Again, going back a little backstory, right? I grew up with a dad who drank, and a mom who was raising six kids on her own, like super self-supporting. And I have no idea how my parents raised us. No, no clue in the world how they made it, but they did. Anyway, so the back to these attributes again. Gosh, I'm a little all over the place today. Uh, Everything outside of omniscience and omnipotence is attainable. And if I allow my own thoughts, right, the imposter, I don't know if you have an imposter, but I have an imposter. Yeah, the one that tells me that I don't already possess the things that were put inside of me before I was born. The imposter, the one that tells me you're not good enough. The one that tells me you'll never amount to anything. That was a nasty one. That's a nasty one that I do my best to combat every day. I find these attributes, compassion and loving and forgiving, and I have to decide. I have to use this thing called the will that was given to me. I have to decide if I even want these things. And deep down inside of me, I do. After I uncover and I discover and I discard, right? I uncover those things inside of me that have been keeping me in the dark, that have been keeping me angry, that have been keeping me from calling someone, that it's been keeping me from going to work. It's been keeping me, fill in the blank. And I discover, right? I uncover them first and I discover what those things are. And deep down, you guys, here's a spoiler alert. Deep down, behind that, underneath that, when I scrape off all of the frosting and I dig really deep, I find that deep down inside of me, I'm just very afraid. Yeah, I'm just very, very afraid. And again, I don't know about you guys, but two of the hardest things, two of the hardest things for me to do as a woman in this world, raising three kids. One is to ask for help. I don't ever want to ask for help. Don't you know who I am? I don't need your help. Yeah. I was born into this world to shoulder the burdens of everybody else. I don't need help. Hardest thing for me to do is ask for help. The second hardest thing for me to do is ask for help in prayer and wait. In prayer and wait. And even in that, right, is unpacking, and there's inventory. In prayer. This implies that I have a power greater than myself. I believe in a power greater than myself. And I do. And it is God. It is easy. It is just that. And then I have to wait. Which means that I don't get to rely on my own intellect. I don't get to rely on what's going through and in my little pea brain. Right? Like, I have to rely on intuition, which is vision. It is dreams. It is things that we hear that make us turn our head twice. Like, what did you say? Excuse me, what did you say? Like, random people that we've never even met or heard before, right? We drive past cars and I see bumper stickers, or I'm following someone and that license plate just says the exact thing that I need to see, feel, hear, and touch. Yeah, because it's not God, right? It's not that power. It's not God that I cannot see, feel, hear, or touch, or smell. It is not. It is that thing called faith that I cannot see, feel, hear, touch, or smell. It is faith. And so I have to decide, right? I have to decide that I want to believe in these attributes, this inventory of that thing that gives me drive and purpose in this world. I don't know, like I I was the living dead for a pretty long time, you guys. I was the living dead, just a walking zombie, an empty shell, and I just didn't want to feel apart from anymore. I really wanted to be a part of. The last thing I wanted to do was not be a part of my kid's life. Like I was here, but I wasn't. I was present, but I wasn't. Uh, and I just don't want to be that parent. And and for me to not be that parent, I have to invest, right? I have to invest in those attributes that will make me a better human, not just a better mom, a better human. It allows me to not walk past that person sitting outside of 7-Eleven. It allows me to not walk past that person. And if I do, I better come out of that store with a musubi, something to drink, and a Red Bull or whatever that is for you. It allows me to have compassion in my heart. Yeah, where once there was so much callous and malice in my heart, there now seats a place for compassion and mercy and grace. Like I don't know about you guys, but were you ever given a second chance? Maybe a third chance, even a fourth chance at doing something. I was given so many chances in this world. I cannot tell you guys how many times I drank and drove. Yeah. How many times I sped when I was drinking and driving. Put me behind the wheel of a vehicle, speeding down the tree tunnel road. Sometimes for fun, sometimes for risk, sometimes with people in the car, sometimes by myself. Yeah, and by the time alcohol was removed from my life, I was wishing for death. I was literally inviting death to come and take me. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for this second chance at life. And at some point, I'm gonna really get into this thing about inventory, and I keep just getting squirrels and wormholes into different places. Um, and so what do I do, right? What do I do after I take stock and I take a look at this inventory and I figure out what I want? I don't just figure out what I want. Now I got to take certain actions, right? I got to take certain actions that support this inventory, right? There needs to be daily receipts that support what we've sold. There needs to be daily receipts to support what I've put in, right? The paycheck is tangible evidence of the work, right? The 8 hours worth of work that I've done, I get paid in 8 hours worth of a paycheck. And yes, yeah, let's acknowledge those other people too, right? Who just show up and do the bare minimum, right? We do the and that was me too at some point. I do the bare minimum and I expect to get paid a certain amount of money for mediocre work, you know? Screw going above and beyond. I just gonna show up and go home at 5 o'clock. And again, I just don't want to live that way anymore, right? If I settle for mediocrity, then makes sense, right? My life gonna be boring and mediocre. And I want an extraordinary life. I want a life beyond my wildest dreams. I want to give my kids the life that they could never dream of because it was something that my parents couldn't give to me. So, like, what is what are some things that I can do, right? What are some things that you can do that maybe can help combat that anger that you have, right? That deep-seated anger that is inside of you that every time you see this certain person, just the blood boils. Yeah, that blood boils inside of you. Every thought is consumed with anger. And where do I start with that? Well, the solution isn't as hard as I think it is, right? It's not as hard as you think it is. It all starts with being kind to somebody else. It all starts with being kind to somebody else and not saying anything about it. It starts with being kind to somebody, not saying anything about it, and not talking about it either. And it goes back to, you know, really, really simple acts of kindness like putting the shopping cart away, letting that person merge. That's a tough one, yeah? That's a tough one. Letting that person merge. And I'll share a quick story. I share a lot of quick stories. Um, Especially that one about letting somebody merge. Yeah, I used to be one of those people, yeah. Merge lane coming up, I'm gonna hug that sucker tight. I'm gonna hug him. You're not merging in front of me. And that was my mentality, right? Like you're not getting in front of me. Like I really have some place to go, you know? You're not getting in front of me. And I had made up this story in my head. Yeah, the because one of my attributes in the God of my understanding is imagination, right? I'm gonna segue again, segue from the segue. I don't know about you guys, but when I was small, when I was just a wee bit, right? When I was just a little girl, somebody told me, that's crazy. That'll never happen. You're not allowed to think that way. Oh my God, that's so stupid, right? My imagination was crushed. I wasn't allowed to be creative in my mind anymore until I had made a decision, right? And followed it up with a plan of action that I am allowed to be creative and I am allowed to imagine a life beyond my wildest dreams. So I had made up this story in my head, yeah, that these people who wish to merge in front of me, because, merge means you're going to yield to oncoming traffic. So I tell myself one day, right? I tell myself, maybe that person who is trying to merge in front of me has a sick family member at home. And maybe, just maybe they are trying to get to that person. And who am I to be all entitled? Like, this is my road. Like, don't get in front of me. Who am I to even think that I have any type of control over anything? Like, again, this whole life, the life that I have today is truly a gift. It is a second chance. It is a third chance. It is a fourth chance. It is the only chance that I have left. And I just choose not to squander it today. Yeah, I choose not to squander or meddle in anger, resentment, dishonesty, and delusion to the best of my willingness. I do my best not to. I would rather live with a peaceful heart and a thankful spirit. Because apparently, I don't know, manifestation, yeah. Apparently, I attract what I am. Yeah. I don't know if you guys noticed that. I attract what I am. So it makes perfect sense, right? If I'm angry, no wonder my kids are angry too and talking back. Same, same. So taking that inventory, uh, and then sitting there and looking at it at night, or whenever you choose to look at an inventory, if you even choose, right? Because it's not always easy to ask for help and then somebody hands you the mirror, right? I don't know if you have friends like that in your life, but I certainly do. I have friends who not just hand me the mirror, but they hold my hand to help me look, right? They help me see what I have discovered. And then we get on this part of the journey where we get to discard of it, right? And the only way I'm going to discard old goods or goods that just don't work anymore is I need to replace them. I need to replace them with something because then it's left empty. Like it feels like it doesn't feel like I feel like something's missing. The fridge looks empty, right? The closet looks empty. Like I removed something. I need to put something back. And so I need to figure out what I'm going to replace those unsaleable goods with. And why do I want to discard of them in the first place? Because sometimes, yeah, sometimes even the unsaleable goods is serving purpose in my life. Huh. Yeah. Sit in the tension of that for a little while. Sometimes the unsaleable goods is still serving purpose in my life. Huh. Crazy, yeah. Two sides of the coin. Purpose, good intention driven, and then there's purpose, where my only motive is selfishness and self centeredness. You know? I don't know, you might find that the primary manifestation of selfishness and self centeredness is dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Oh my gosh, I just made a whole ton of people angry just now. The primary manifestation of selfishness and self centeredness is dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Huh. I mean, that just made me chuckle a little bit in my seat. You know, I I came on here tonight and I had an objective. I promise I had an objective and I was going to talk about this and we're going to dig deep into this. And I don't think I've talked anything about it. I I truly don't. Um it's late and I get to sit here in my patio and I have no idea what I talked about. I have absolutely no clue. Maybe, just maybe, uh the Vision Inside episode 5. Maybe I'll have a script. Maybe I'll have some bullet points. I probably won't because, I'm a rebel like that, yeah? And another attribute of the God of my understanding is being the minority opinion, right? And being that voice for the crowd that is less. And part of being the minority opinion, uh I get the stigma or I get the label of being a rebel. Or oh, so what, you better now? Oh, you better than the rest of us now. Now that blah blah blah, now that you have fill in the blank, now that you know fill in the blank. Oh, now that you're trying to do some podcast, oh, you think you're better than everybody. I am the minority opinion. And the fact of the matter is that what other people think of me is none of my business. What I think of me is all of my business. And what God thinks of me is all of God's business. It's just my job to do my best to discern what is intuition and what is selfish and self-seeking motive. So I don't know if any of this made sense. I think we're going to call it. If you're joining us for the first time and you stuck around this whole time, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. If no one told you today, I am proud of you. And if you decided to join us for all 4 episodes so far, thank you. Thank you for the love and the support, the weird whack thoughts, that I have. And we're just getting started. We are just getting started. The imagination and the vision that was placed on my heart for this podcast is something definitely beyond my wildest dreams. And the only way I can get there is one podcast at a time, one prayer at a time, one revelation at a time. Yeah. So, with that being said, this is Delori Gomes, and thank you for listening to The Vision Inside.